So we have limited time, so I'm just go right into it. So Taxi Driver is about a disaffected young man who has problems connecting romantically with women and hyper-focuses on politicians in the wrong ways and wants to be the hero in his own story, but is clearly wrong-headed about it. Why do you think this is relevant today? I got my first laugh from Marty Scorsese. The underlying question is why is really talk about the legacy of this film and why do you think people respond to it as one of the greatest films in Hollywood history? Let's start down there with you, Mr. Schrader.
A larger question is why is it film?
You use your microphone.
You got one next to you, Paul. You might be sitting on
The larger question is why is this a film that wouldn't die? Why are we sitting here? A lot of films were made 50 years ago. Yet this one seems to renew its contract with young viewers every decade or so. And why is that? I'm not quite sure. I can give you some supposes. But obviously there is something in this film that doesn't die. And that's an endlessly fascinating subject. It was made in 75, came out in 76. If we did this in 76, we would be sitting here watching a 1926 movie, you know, and so it is peculiar. I don't know. I know, but I can't say.
Yeah. Mr. Scorsese, what do you think? Why has this film endured for such a time?
I think it's a story that goes to the very heart of what's really Travis's character and the sense of his isolation, a sense of his anger, resentment, but primarily being unable to, sense of being isolated in the universe, really, more than just Manhattan and New York. I mean, in the world, why are we even here? And there he is, and he's gonna somehow straighten it out. Someday a real rain will come, he says. But I think, I've had people from, I was in Beijing in 84. A kid came up to me from Kazakhstan, I think it was. He said, "You love Taxi Driver. What do you do about the loneliness?" And it's about lonely. It's about not being able to connect. But for me, that's universal, and it's just always going to speak to many people, many young people particularly. And of course, through the writing and through the extraordinary performances, this is something that carries over for years. Yeah.
Mr. De Niro, please try to restrict your answer to a short period of time. What is the legacy, to re-answer to what do you think, why is Taxi Driver still a film that stands to this day, Mr. De Niro?
I know that when we all read the script, everybody felt really good about it. We all liked it and identified with it some way. I'm from New York, Marty's from New York, we're right. I mean, you still feel like, in some ways, alienated from everyone. And so it just had something that I'm not sure that I can explain to now with what's going on today, but then I do understand that people are lonely, especially today with the internet, and especially after the pandemic and all that. As far as that, being alone, being more isolated, getting into their own worlds, getting into worlds that they shouldn't get into, being turned into something, like just getting obsessed with something, whatever that would be, but then something negative. I can see it. I don't know if that's a very good answer, but that's mine.
We'll take it. Jodie freaking Foster. Now that we've heard from them. We'd like to hear from from your perspective, why do you think the film stands to this day? You had a very unique angle on it, being so young when you did it. Why do you think the film so resonates?
Yeah, well, I was a bit of a witness. I mean, I was only 12 years old when I made the movie, and I loved cinema, and I think the thing that I connected to when I read the script, and while I was shooting, was that there was something absolutely 100% true and authentic about the character's disaffection and loneliness that I didn't really understand, but that I knew was really true. And the beauty of Travis Bickle's character, I think, is that he presents an idea of this meaning that he wants and that he wants to be a part of. But there's no real self-understanding. He just allows the audience to witness his descent, his unraveling, and his attempt to connect. And but he doesn't really understand himself. And I think that's, you know, the anti-hero. That's the draw of the anti-hero.
For sure.
I mean, I think that I stumbled on a metaphor that was true. I was in a period in Los Angeles, down on everything, living in my car, drinking. I ended up in the hospital with an ulcer, and the idea of the taxi cab came in my head, and I said, that's who I am. And there used to be this idea of a taxi driver as your dad's friend Joe, the garrulous, friendly guy. I said, he's not the garrulous, friendly guy. He's terrified. He's frightened. He's the Darko of Dostoevsky. He's angry. He's lonely. That's the little guy in a taxi. He's sealed up in a yellow coffin, and they're locked him up, and they're throwing him through the sewer. That's who he is. And as soon as that metaphor occurred to me, I knew how to write this. It was about the yellow bus. And my sense is there was more loneliness kind of voiceover in the original script. Mari showed me a fairly early version of the script. And I remember saying to you, Mari, I think, even though I wrote it, I don't think we need that much voiceover, because every time we see that big yellow checker cab, wham, you get hit on the head with a metaphor. That is loneliness, a cab, not his words.
Well, yes. So, Mr. Scorsese, talk about that. What drew you to the material? I want to ask everybody what drew you to the material. But Paul writes a script, as he says, has this metaphor of the yellow bus. Everybody who's got to take a taxi after this feels weird now, I know. But Mr. Scorsese, what drew you to the material?
Well, again, purely the character and quite honestly, the writing of it. The script is so tight and so strong, and has turning the page, like each page is like a razor blade. You have to be very careful. And I said, I said, I could do this. I know this. I know who he is. I mean, I'd come off, I wanted to make The Gambler, a book by Dostoevsky. I'd come off earlier, we talked about getting involved with Russian novels by seeing Richard Brooks's version of Brothers Karamazov with Yul Brynner and Claire Bloom. It wasn't successful, but I said, who is this Dostoevsky? I was a kid. So I found the shorter novels, and the first one was Notes from Underground. And it's like, that's the one. They're between that and Karamazov. And so from Notes, it seems like Travis, the resentment, the anger, the grinding up of his insides, his humiliation, the insulted and the humiliated, all of that came to me as I read Travis. And as far as a yellow cab, I didn't quite realize, when I saw the cab, I began to realize that it's that arc of despair, that, coming through the steam. I remember coming through the steam because there's so much New York in the summer. It's got great steam. The steam comes up, and the cab came through. It's, oh my God, look at that. Somebody said, oh, it's supposed to be the hell metaphor. I wasn't making a metaphor, it's the cab coming through the steam. really, it was. We said nobody would make the film, and he said, well, let's do it in San Francisco. And we looked at each other, and we said, no, it's the taxis in New York.
Yeah, well, yeah. You needed a city where the cab was king. King.
Mr. Niro, what attracted you to play Travis Bickle? Because I think there's something very special in your performance. Obviously, people have talked about it. that he, in the hands of another actor, he may not be an empathetic character. But there's something about the way you play him that when he makes bad decisions or poor decisions in the eyes of me, I still feel for this guy. How did you, what draw you to that character?
Well, like I said, I identified with Travis in ways and understood it. I think that's what Marty was saying too, that it was just something special about this, the way Paul had written it and with the character. It was like, I mean, you have no idea what impact a film will have later on. You just never know. You do the movie like Marty says, let's go through the steam. And then what people look for symbolism, which is okay. It's like reading a book. You pull, you get from it what you want from it, and that's good. Especially if it's a good novel or something. I don't know. We had a good time doing it, and I'm lucky that I was working with Marty and Paul and Jodie and everyone else, and Harvey.
Thank you. Ms. Foster, I want to ask you about, you were 12, as you have said.
Yes.
What draws a 12-year-old to Taxi Driver? And the parents, whatever. I have an 11-year-old, so I was thinking about it. I said, "What rewatched it? Would you?" I don't think so. So, and then also I want you to talk about making the movie, the physical act of making the movie, because I've heard that like Mr. Niro was sort of a mentor on set to you. And
Yeah, well, I was a child actor, so I started working when I was 3, and I had already made Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore with Marty. And the reason, I mean, I was just lucky to be there. So guys, I'm incredibly lucky to be on this stage. The truth is, I saw Mean Streets, and I was a kid. My mom took me to the movies. This is what we did. We saw European films and, you know, the Nouvelle Vague films and Japanese movies and German films, and she took me to see Mean Streets. And that was it. I just wanted to be a part of this. So anything that you would have offered me, I would have done that. And in fact, I think I tried to be an extra in New York, but it didn't work out because I was under 16 and they wouldn't let me work at night or something.
And then you did Taxi Driver.
Yeah. But the being on set with these guys, being in this moment with these guys was just such a gift. And at the time, I'm not sure I 100% understood that, but I was watching and listening. So I probably remember more than everybody because I was just watching and listening. So I remember everybody's shoe color, and I remember the things they told me. And Bob took me, he picked me up every day, or 3 times, I think, from the Essex House Hotel, and he took me to a diner, and he sat me down, and we'd read through the script. And then he'd sit in silence for like 20 minutes. And I'd just completely bored. And then we'd do that again. We did that a couple times. And then finally he introduced improvisation, which I'd never done before, didn't understand. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And I remember getting all like happy, and I came home, came up the elevator and came to the hotel, and I knocked on the door. And I said to my mom, "Oh my God, I think I might want to be an actor. This is amazing. I thought acting was just saying words people wrote. I had no idea that there was anything more to it." And so you probably didn't realize that at the time, but it was a life-changing opportunity for me.
So on the set of Taxi Driver, you said, "I want to be an actor." Can we spare some words for that era of New York City and what it was like to film in that era? And maybe, is it any different than New York City today?
Is it different, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think it is.
Okay.
But I was, I grew up downtown on Elizabeth Street, in the old Elizabeth Street, not the new one, and the Bowery, the old Bowery. So for me, the city was the city. I wasn't. I think it was a couple of friends of mine said, "Marty, didn't you realize something was really wrong when there was like stacks of garbage piled up in the streets?" I said, "No, it was a garbage strike." So it happens all the time. But there was something in the shoot of the film you could feel in the temperature, you could feel a kind of violence all around you, like in, you know, Do the Right Thing, in a sense. You really felt it all around at night. We were there at night most of the time. And you could taste it in a way. And it permeated the picture, you know. I mean, what was happening here, I think, is what Jodie was saying is, you know, in terms of Bob, you were saying about his liking Travis. I think Paul and I related to it, and certainly Bob related to Travis. I don't remember even discussing any of it, like the character or anything. We knew it, the three of us, somehow. And so it became like, in fact, there's shots of Bob and me talking on the set. There's a shot of you and me talking sitting on the, where they have frozen foods. Remember, we were seeing, and we're talking about personal stuff. We're like, oh no, I went to that, no, he told me this, no, and she, and this and that. It has nothing to do, very little to do with what we're, you know, every now and then we'd be discussing character and what to do. Yeah, there really is. I mean, it was the city. It was falling apart. Really was falling apart. Yeah, it was.
Can you use the microphone for those of us who can't? There we go. Thank you, Mr. Schrader.
And
Please talk about people here, many of whom were not alive then or did not live in New York then. Talk about the city, Mr. Schrader, from your
It was alive. You know, I came here in '66, and I remember sitting on the curb at McDougal Street, listening to a club without the back was coming back. You know, hot summer in the city, back in my night, getting really high, and sitting there in the village of '66 saying, this is the greatest fucking place on earth.
It really was. And that's so funny because, Jodie, it's like so funny because when I first met you, you came in, it was in a little office I had, and just came to say hello for Alice doesn't live here anymore. And you walked in, you were in, I'll just tell the story, you were in the school clothes.
School uniform.
Yeah, yeah. And you just sat down, yeah, I can do that, yeah. Okay, no, I got it, no problem. What are you doing next? I'm doing this other thing over at Disney. It's okay, fine. And she had more control on set and kind of depended on her in a way. She had an authority. I'm not kidding. An authority that was like, yeah, we're going to go there. Good, I'm there. You know. It was really quite supportive. You put it that way because it was a hard shoot. Yeah.
Ms. Foster, do you remember from that perspective?
Well, I do have some memories because I had made a lot of movies at that point. You know, I'd already started working from so young that I had made quite a few films. But I remember there was a really funny moment, it's seared in my memory, where we went to the actual location and Marty was trying to explain to me how I was supposed to pull down his fly. And then they couldn't stop giggling. And then Bob was like, I'm gonna take care of it, I'm gonna tell her. And then he would try to tell me what to do, and then he would start giggling. And then the two of them just couldn't stop laughing, and they just couldn't give me a note, because I think they were just so nervous that I was so young. And I was like, well, I just want to, okay, fine. That first I pull down the fly, then I do this, and I walk over there. What's the big deal? But it felt fun. It felt like a game, and it felt important, but also whimsical. Which I think if you've directed and made art, and you've made art with your friends, that's that feeling of feeling like this is the most serious thing on earth, but it's also, I cannot stop laughing. And I remember Marty thought the blood stuff was very funny.
It was known for being a funny scene. That's
Yeah.
But talk about, what do you mean by that it was very funny?
Well, you know, the kind of massacre scene at the end, and you know.
Spoiler alert.
Excited about how basically the dolly was going to be on the roof, and I was interested.
Yeah, that's
what was explaining it to me. About how it was going to be on the roof.
That was in the script. An overhead shot that tracked.
That's right.
So we cut through. It was a building that was condemned. It was going to be torn down. So we cut through the floor of the building. We kept that shot to the very end. But you had to be taken away because you had school, though.
Yeah, it's
Where it took us months to cut through the roof, and then we had 15 minutes with the kid.
Oh, those rules.
Yeah. There was, you know, when the guy's face gets blown off, and there was those days, you know, piano wire and all sorts. There was like, it seemed like 5 or 6 guys that were standing on either side pulling the pieces off at the right time so that all the blood could spurt. And you just thought that was hilarious.
Prosthetics, that's one of the things with the changing of the color in the film. Because when I was willing to do that, because at the end, because something I had never done that kind, and I'm looking at it, and it seemed I couldn't get out of my head the process that we went through. And so I said, it still doesn't, I'm not convinced. The color of the blood is too red. I know that's prosthetic, but by changing the color, I mean, it's also rationalization, also to get the MPAA.
Yeah, you should explain that story because most people don't know it. I was telling my son that the other night, and he was like, "What?"
Yeah, about the color, you mean?
Well, because we were going to get an X rating.
Oh, the studio told us, had a meeting, and me and Jodie Phillips, and said,
And she negotiated it down from red to brown, and they got away with brown.
got away with brown, yeah, because the thing about it was, it like sepia, but what I had done was each shot had percentage of color and black and white, each shot. Now, I was trying to do what John Huston and Oswald Morris did on Moby Dick, which was use Technicolor and make it, each shot had an element more black and white than color. And it looked like ivory engraving, sort of those things that, you know, that that did on whale bones and those 19th century sailing ships. And it's gorgeous, and I always wanted to make a film that way. I was thinking of the whole film that way, but ultimately it just became the ending. And so I tried to do that. It came out brown or kind of a reddish brown, I'm not quite sure. But each shot was determined as 60% color, 40% black and white. 65% color, 20%, yeah, back and forth like that. And grain. I added grain to it. We made it more contrasted. You know, and that made it more like a tabloid. And I said, it's exactly what we need. That has to be Ouija.
It gave us the R rating.
And that's how you got the R rating. Yeah. Thank you for co-hosting with me. I appreciate it. Not even kidding. Not even kidding. So I'm not going to be able to leave here alive if I don't ask about one scene in particular from Taxi Driver. The scene that went viral before viral was a word. There's been lots of different urban legends about how you came to that one scene. Do you know what I'm talking about, Mr. De Niro? The scene I'm talking about? Do you remember?
I think so.
Would you happen to remember what the famous line from that scene is? Would you happen to remember?
Yeah, yes, I know it.
Is there any way I could put all my chips in and get you to maybe just say it one time for the 25th anniversary of the 25th anniversary of this beautiful festival that you did?
You were asking me to say it?
I feel bad about it. I feel like I might end up in the Hudson River, but I'm gonna.
Sorry, the acoustics in here are hard for us to hear.
Okay, I am asking you. I am asking you, Mr. De Niro, showbiz legend, idol of all, to say the famous line from Taxi Driver, because this crowd will go nuts if you do it, and we'll all feel joy inside our hearts, which in this era of America is very important.
Okay. Are you talking to me? I'll add one more thing. I'm the only one here.
Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Ramadan. There's a lot of urban legends about that. Mr. Schrader talked about what if that was in the script. I heard that it was also maybe a Bruce Springsteen line. Did somebody heard him say? That it was improvised on set. Can whoever wants to take that question? Now that
Well,
I
it's
got
not in the script. Bob asked me about it once, and I said, well, it's just like a kid who's 8 years old standing in front of a mirror with his cap down, going bang, 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 bang. He's talking to himself. That's that. Yeah, and I never elaborated exactly what he was saying. I figured, that was up to the actor. The actor's job to come up with something. So that was the last I heard of it.
What I felt was that it was the last week of shooting. We were 5 days over schedule, which today, these days, on a film like that would be 2 months or something over schedule. They were on us, they were screaming at us, they were pulling cameras away. And it was a difficult time. We were in a building, that same building on Columbus Avenue, and we had a second floor apartment, and windows were open, and we had talked about it. I said, when you do this thing in the mirror, we gotta say something. I don't know what the hell, and I forget how you came. All I remember is that we set up the shot, and I was, in those days there was no video assist. So everything depends on Mike Chapman, who was a great DP of the film, and his operator. And he's got the shot, and I'm at his feet. I remember just being on the floor with earphones on. And you just started playing with the gun, and then this stuff started coming out. And I remember saying a couple of times, yeah, do it again, do it again. And at that point, I remember Pete Scopa, who was this great AD in New York, he was banging on the door. And I had to go over to open it. What is it? He goes, wait, you're 2 hours over. We gotta get this thing done. Come on, get out of there. I said, no, this is good. Give us another few minutes. I closed the door, went back in, and just continued. And you got into kind of like a trance-like state, just like a fugue went on and on that way. But I don't recall if you had any suggestions from anyone. I mean, did Paul say anything? No, you didn't.
No, it was just the only trouble I had was with the gun, pulling it out and just doing that. But that kind of worked for the scene anyway in some way. He's practicing, yeah.
But I guess what they're asking, Bob, is whether you had heard this before or you just came up with it.
I came up with it.
Cleared up. So, we only have a few minutes left. I just want to go down the line. We'll start with you, Mr. Schrader. And there are young filmmakers in the audience. There are veteran filmmakers in the audience. Give them some advice at this point for your advice for these people out here. 2.5 minutes left.
Don't copy anybody. There's 100,000 people who can do exactly what you are trying to copy. If you have anything left in you, any nugget of originality, that's all you have, period. And mine it and explore it, and maybe you don't have it. That's the only way I've ever proceeded. You can go the other route. You can look at a movie and say, I can write a movie just as good as that, and you probably can. I just don't want to live that world.
Thank you. This is Scorsese. Advice for the filmmakers here.
Well, the only thing is that I really don't know much about how films are put together these days in terms of financing. That sort of thing. I come from a time where, I wanted to make films based in the Hollywood system, but independent films at the same time. And so I've gambled over the years with it. Sometimes, as you say, the lions are tamed, and sometimes, what is it, Paul?
Well, you say, alphabet, put me in that lion cage, give me a whip, give me a chair, I'm going to beat these. And sometimes you win, and sometimes the lions win.
Fair.
So you chance it, you go it every time. But the thing about it is that no matter what the system is, and now we have all the technology, you can do anything really, and there are no excuses anymore. So that I can't get this, I can't get that. But the key thing is your own will, the will to do it, and not be shaken by any kind of hindrance, any hindrance at all. That will, do it in black, or do it this way, do it with this actor, do it with that. I say, okay, can I make that work? Can I make that work? Don't reject anything out of hand. Think about it before you reject it, if you have to reject it. But it is the will, because in a sense, what makes film a hit, or what nobody even knows. I didn't think, like Taxi Driver, I thought was a labor of love and nobody would see it. We finished it, that's it, and you called me and said, go take a look at the line at the Coronet. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, it is about your own willpower and to continue all kinds of obstacles.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Niro, advice for these filmmakers out here?
Well, I think I heard Paul say something about just be original. That's bottom line, is be original. To me, being original is make it your own, as they say. you see a story, you write a story. If you've written it, it is already original. But unless it's even then you have to be careful that you're not copying something. But always, always, always never go wrong if you make it your own, because no one can imitate what you do. Who you are, you're unique. And when you express yourself or what you're feeling or what you're trying to get across, as long as it's personal and real from you, you got something special.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, all of that. I agree with all of that. And you know, the very special position that I have been in because I started so young was that I got to look over the shoulder of all of these extraordinary filmmakers, extraordinary directors, and say, why did he do that? Why did he say that? Is that true or is that true? And that really was my film school. Not just the fabulous Mr. Scorsese, but you know, Spike Lee and Schrader and you know, just a million other people where I was able to be curious about their point of view. And when you're young, you know, you make all of your art is about this is me, this is me, this is how I feel, this is how I look. But you're also taking things in about everyone else. And as you get older, I think I've come to understand that the best education I had was about looking at other people's stories and saying, I want to hear that story. It's not me. How can I serve them? How can I serve their stories, stories that haven't been told? So it's sort of that combination of selfhood that comes from being curious about other people.
Let's give these ladies a round of applause, everybody. Paul Schrader, Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Jodie Foster. Enjoy the film, everybody.